The internet is louder than ever. There's a new coach, strategy, trend available on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on all of the platforms. And it's no wonder women in business are getting confused, they're feeling overwhelmed, and they're feeling in this chaos of not sure which direction to take. And the reason that this is present is because underneath it all, we have been taught, we have been conditioned to place our power and our authority outside of ourselves. All the way from childhood and schooling, we were taught to outsource our power, to listen to other people, to listen to those who knew better, to learn from others, versus trusting our own instinct, versus actually learning how to listen to our body and our vessel and our intuition, learning to trust and follow our desires, right? And when we started business, we were conditioned and we were taught to start following all of these different strategies. You hear from all of these coaches claiming that they have the best number one strategy, right? And it's not that strategy isn't important, and it's not that those strategies don't work for those people. They do. I'm not claiming that they are liars or that you should never use strategy. Not at all. But what I'm saying is we need to plug back into our own body, our own truth, our own instinct, our own desire, our own pulse first, and let that guide us as to which strategy and structure and system and funnel to support ourselves and our body and our business. There's a million ways to make money. There's a million ways to market yourself. There's so many different platforms. And what needs to happen is we need to come back to ourselves and actually follow the impulses of our own body, the impulses of our desire, our areas of genius. Like, where do you want to show up? What platform do you want to show up on? How do you want to create content? What strategy feels exciting to you? What feels nourishing? And so the problem is, the more that we consume, the more that we look outside of ourselves for answers, the more that we follow every single new trend or coach or strategy that comes up across our screens, the quieter our own body gets, the quieter the pulse of our desire gets, the quieter our instinct and our intuition gets. If we're constantly outsourcing, of course, that inner vessel, that inner channel is going to get quieter and quieter. And so if you're someone that, you want to create some piece of content and then you get up and you start scrolling on Instagram or YouTube or whatever platform it is to inspire you, that's not actually inspiring you. That's not actually research. It's avoidance with better branding. It's looking outside of yourself for inspiration instead of inner resourcing that inspiration, instead of following the pulse. And so I want to introduce you to a term which I call erotic aliveness. And I actually teach feminine embodied erotic leadership. So erotic aliveness doesn't necessarily have anything to do with sexuality, but it's the pulse of creativity. I mean, sexuality is creative life force energy. Sexuality, that sexual energy is stored in our womb, in our pelvis, in our pussy, and it is the source of creation and life itself. So when we start to tap into our feminine body, our desires, our channel, our pussy, our womb, we start to tap into this pulse. It is literally creative energy itself. So erotic aliveness is when we're starting to listen to our desires, to our impulses. Like, what are you excited to talk about? What are you excited to teach on? What kind of content are you excited to create? What kind of clients are you excited to work with? What kind of opportunities are you excited to chase and follow and reach out about? Instead of like listening to all of the outside noise, what do you want? What do you desire? Where are your impulses guiding you towards? Where is their life? Where is their aliveness? Because when there's aliveness for you, that is when you're your most magnetic. That is when you'll start to attract your dream clients and the women and the people that are meant to be in your circle, in your field, in your audience. When you are connected to what is alive and true for you, when there's erotic energy, there's sexual energy, there's creative energy pulsating through you because you're tapped in, right? It's something you're passionate about. It literally lights you up. So I really want to land this piece that your desires, your impulses are not random. They are instructions. They are instructions from your soul and your higher self. What you desire is divinely given to you. The things that you want in your life, you're meant to go after them on a soul level, on a woo-woo level, on a spiritual level. Your desires are given to you by the divine so that your soul moves through the growth that it needs to move through to get that desire. They are literally divine instructions. And society and the world teaches us to not listen to our desires, right? But everything that I teach is about coming back to your channel, back to your body, so that you can start to tap back into those desires. And they might be really quiet. For so many women, they struggle to actually connect with what they actually want, what they desire, because they've been suppressing it for so long. And something that I love to talk about is living at the edge of your desire, living at the edge of aliveness. Like, what are the collaborations? What are the opportunities? What are the offerings that you want to create that there's aliveness there, but it feels a little bit scary because it's outside of your comfort zone. It's outside of your familiar zone. There's a part of you that has some fear or some resistance or some imposter syndrome or some doubt. Those are the desires that I am most excited about you leaning into, because that is literally the edge of your growth. That is literally where your soul is guiding you towards. That is literally your next level. That is literally where that aliveness, where that pulse, where that eros lives. And so I want to tell you a couple of personal stories that I've recently really been leaning into these edges within my own business. So I decided that I wanted to get more visible. I wanted to stand even more in my authority. I wanted to expand my audience. I wanted to get on podcasts and online summits and get in front of a greater audience of people. And the moment that I decided that, the moment that I truly decided I wanted to step into a greater level of visibility, all of these ideas and opportunities started arising. So my old business coach, I saw that she was creating a podcast, and she's like, this is going to be the #1 leadership podcast. So I reached out to her and I pitched myself as, I want you to interview me. I want to talk about incorporating turn on into your business. I pitched her. She happened to be in Brisbane the next weekend. I went out for dinner with her, and then we recorded the podcast the next day. So beautiful. I reached out to 2 women who were creating these online summits. One of them is a woman that I really admire that I'd never collaborated or worked with in the past. And another was just some Instagram post that I came across. Someone else that I follow was going to be on her summit, and it was literally the next week. But I felt this impulse to reach out anyway, even though it was next week, even though there was a part of me that was like, it's next week, all of the speaker spots are going to be filled. There's no way she's going to say yes, but I felt that pulse to reach out anyway. So I reached out, and she's like, yes, you can be on there. We can do a pre-recorded session, and we recorded it the next week. And another one I really wanted to, for actually a really long time, I'd wanted to be on Rosie Ree's circles that she runs monthly inside of her membership. I wanted to bring one of my offerings to those circles, but I'd never reached out about it. And so I saw that she was creating this directory, and I reached out about the directory, and she ended up DMing me herself, sending me a voice note saying she'd love to have me in the directory. And I felt that impulse, that pulse of aliveness of like, yes, let's do it, to ask her in a voice note if I could be on her circle, if I could be a guest facilitator in her circle. And she said yes. And we planned it, and 3 weeks later, it's actually happening tonight. And something that I really, really, really want to land here is like, in each of these circumstances, there was the doubt, there was the fear, there was the imposter syndrome that arose. And there was nervousness, like there was the butterflies in my belly before hopping on each of these things. There was the like, oh, this is a little bit uncomfortable. This is unfamiliar. I've never done this thing before. But I tell you, like once I leaned into the edge and I did the thing, like after actually doing the thing, being on the podcast, being on the summit, facilitating the circle, I felt so fucking alive, so turned on, so juiced up, so in my power and in my purpose, because I leaned into that edge, because I was right there at the edge of my erotic aliveness. There is so much energy available here. And this is what I say when I say, this is what I mean when I say, these are instructions from your soul. This is where you're being guided towards. This is where the next level of your growth is. Because that's ultimately what our souls are here to do, to grow and evolve. And that's ultimately why we started our business in the first place, because business is obviously the biggest fucking personal development journey on steroids, the biggest psychedelic journey, the biggest plant medicine journey ever. Entrepreneurship is such a personal development journey. It is to the most elite level, right? And that's why we said yes to that, because our souls are here for big fucking growth, big missions, big purpose, big impact. And so it's up to us to follow these impulses, that edge of aliveness, that thing that feels scary but alive. And what happens when we stop listening to these, or we suppress them, we silence those desires, we silence those impulses, is they get quieter and quieter and quieter. And we continue to consume and look outside of ourselves for answers. We continue to give out our power and our authority to the next trend or the next coach or the next strategy that crosses across our screens, the next low ticket offer that's promising us the world. And again, all of that inner impulse, instinct, intuition, desire gets quieter and quieter. But there's still a part that's there niggling and nagging at you beneath the surface. And you can feel it, right? You can feel some subtle level of not being fully fulfilled, not being fully turned on, not being fully alive, maybe a little bit bored in your business or something, it's not fully lighting you up. You're aware of that. And it'll keep niggling at you subtly in the background until you start listening to it. And the moment that you start listening to it and following that impulse of aliveness, it'll continue to get bigger and louder, and they'll continue to arise. There's never-ending impulses because the feminine is insatiable. There's always another desire. But when we're not listening to that gap between where we are and where we want to be, where we're meant to be, where our soul desires to be grows, and we continue to outsource and think that we need a new strategy or a new coach or a new funnel. But we don't. We need to come back to ourselves and listen to our body, listen to our desire, listen to our pussy, listen to that pulse of aliveness and where that's guiding us. And again, I am not saying that you don't need strategy, that you shouldn't have any funnels, that you shouldn't automate anything, that you shouldn't outsource to AI. You absolutely can and should. I love all of those things. But we want to do the ones where there's aliveness, where there's excitement, where our desires want to be, instead of outsourcing to whoever it is telling us how we should run our business. How do you want to run your business? What strategies feel good to you? What strategies feel supportive? What strategies feel exciting to you? So how do we start to reconnect, and how do we start to turn up that inner volume? Well, first we have to turn down the outer volume, the external noise, put down the phone, stop doom scrolling, set some boundaries with yourself around consuming before creating. Shut out that external noise. Stop buying the next new low ticket offer or strategy or funnel that's selling you the world. Shut it out, get quiet, put the phone down, close your eyes and breathe. Close your eyes, get quiet, connect in, tune in, move your body, move your hips. Feel your consciousness drop down from the mental sphere through your heart, through your womb, down into your pussy. Place a hand on your pussy, place a hand on your womb. Literally circle your pelvis, circle your hips. Move your body, put on a song, dance, self-touch, self-pleasure. Do something that feels good. Do something that makes you feel yummy and alive and juicy. And I promise once you start feeling good, once you do something that feels good, that feels delicious in your body, that turns you on, literally, once you do something that turns you on or brings you pleasure, you will feel a spark of inspiration. Because that is literally what pleasure, what turn on, what sexual energy is. It is a spark. And when you're connected to it, you have natural inspiration and motivation. You have natural access to divine knowledge and divine insight, but the knowledge of your body, literally inspiration. You have access to natural inspiration and natural motivation. And you no longer have to push and force yourself and use discipline to show up because you're naturally inspired, you're naturally motivated. And so this is when I tell my clients to use pleasure as strategy, literally using pleasure as strategy to give you that natural motivation and inspiration. And then things flow so much more effortlessly. And then you can start to listen. Those desires and those impulses will naturally arise when you're connected to your body, when you're dropped in, when you're not hustling and pushing and forcing yourself, when you've slowed down, when you're in pleasure, when you're in play, when you're in creation. Those natural desires and impulses will start to arrive. You'll get a little download. You'll think, what if I do this? Or what if I reach out to this person? Or what if I do this piece of content? And the more that you listen to them, the more that they'll arise. And again, they'll start to arise at the edge of your growth level, right? At the edge of your comfort zone. You'll start to feel those impulses that expand you beyond your comfort zone. And that is when you are in the sweet spot. So what's the tingle? What's the impulse? What's the thing that you're feeling forward moving energy towards? Where is your body leading you? Listen to that. And that is true for strategy and funnels and automations as well. What are the strategies that you feel excited about, that your body is guiding you towards? Because we want to use all of those masculine strategies and structures to support our feminine, to support us, not to take us away from our feminine desires, to take us toward our feminine desires. The masculine is the container that takes us toward our desires, not away from our desires. But so many of us have decentered the feminine and overcompensated by listening to the masculine, the strategy, the structure, the direction, the discipline, the push, the force, the hustle, that we're no longer in touch with the feminine desire. We're no longer in touch with that aliveness. And that's that very thing that makes us magnetic, that makes us irresistible. We want to recenter the feminine and use the masculine to support our feminine, to guide us towards our feminine desires, to guide us towards the impulse and the pulse of aliveness and where our body wants to go and how we want to be supported. And so this is exactly what I teach all of my clients inside my program, Shakti. It is an 11-week initiation into erotic power and feminine leadership. And I teach you how to come back to your feminine, how to come back into your body, how to activate that pulse of aliveness and eros and pleasure and natural inspiration and motivation. How to use the masculine to support your feminine instead of take you away from the feminine. How to come into some really powerful, delicious feminine archetypes like the sacred slut and the dominatrix and the dark feminine. And they all support you in building your power and adding this energy, this magnetic, irresistible energy of turn on and aliveness and pleasure into your business. So I want to leave you with this. Your body already knows. Your desires are instructions. The pulse is there. It's just up to you to turn down the volume of the external world and turn up the volume on yourself. And if you're craving this deeper relationship to yourself, to your body, to your sexual energy, to your eros, to that pulse of turn on and aliveness and magnetism and pleasure and inspiration and motivation, that is exactly what we're doing inside Shakti. It is starting at the end of August. There is an in-person cohort and an online cohort, so you can join wherever you are in the world. The link is below. And if you want to listen to more content like this, make sure you subscribe. I love you so much. Have a beautiful day and go do something fun and pleasurable. Mwah.